Hello, everybody. Welcome to this webinar from Social Catalyst. My name is Travis Allison. Um, you're seeing our slides here. We're thrilled that you're here. We are indeed. We're going to take a couple minutes and let some more people arrive, um, but we will get started right away, um, meaning that we're going to get started probably in the next 2 minutes. So while we're doing that, I wanted to just take a minute. I'll introduce my co-presenters in just a minute, but while we do that, I want to welcome some folks to the show. Fred, it's great to see you. When we go through when we get to the questions part of the webinar, we're going to open up your mic so you can say hello. You will see in the GoToMeeting panel that you have that you can use the telephone or your mic and speakers. So we'll open up your mics as soon as we get that going. So I want to say hello to some of the folks that have joined us. Hello to Claude and to Eric. Hope the real estate business is going well today. Hello to Irene. I want to know if it's Irene or Terry Ann from her office who's on the call with us. So we'll give you some instructions on how to use GoToWebinar when we officially start in about 60 seconds, but we'll say a couple more hellos here. Paisley, it's great to have you. And Jim, Paris too, and Jennifer, and a few other people are coming in just as we speak. So we'll keep things going. Again, my name is Travis Allison, and I'm one of your hosts for today. And we're going to start this Social Media for Business questions and answers officially in about 60 seconds. So, welcome. There's a little bit about us on your screen right now. So there's another Jennifer I want to say hello to. I know that there's Mary coming and a bunch more people that are registered. Registrations are pouring in even as we speak, so people are getting signed up and logged in. So, hey, and here's Adam from my hometown. He's going to be signing in soon also. So I think, fellas, what we'll do is get things started. So I'd like to welcome everybody who's joining us for this GoToWebinar. We're Travis, Trevor, and Jeff from Social Catalyst. We're so glad that you're here. We wanted to have this opportunity. This webinar comes out of a project and a party that we had for Social Media Day on the 30th of June. And we'd offered those participants a chance to ask us anything they wanted about social media. And we thought, since we're doing the work anyway, we'd like to open it to as many people as possible. So we're grateful that you're all here. To introduce ourselves, my name is Travis Allison. I am the creative director at Social Catalyst. And I'm going to turn now to Trevor to give his own introduction.
Thanks, Travis. Great to have everybody here. It's always exciting to get into good conversations about social media and ones that are really pragmatic and focused on what we can actually do for our businesses. And looking at our picture, we're more like the white shirt gang. That actually was not intentional, though. We like to think we're that deliberate, but that wasn't the case in that one. And also with us today is Jeff Evans. Jeff, why don't you say hi?
Hi, everyone. I'm glad that you could join us today. I'm looking forward to the Q&A.
That's great. Thanks, guys. So today we wanted to talk about effective and timely ways that you can build your business using online marketing tools, specifically some of the social media tools that we work with our clients on. So there's a number of different parts to this, but we're going to start with a bit of a presentation from Trevor. But before we do, we just want to let you know that our slides will be available online on SlideShare, and those of you who've registered ahead of time, you will get a link to the slides, and you can see all of the stuff that we have talked about in Trevor's quick presentation. You notice on our opening slide in the top right corner that there is the little bird from Twitter. When you're on SlideShare, you'll be able to click on the links if there's a quote or even just the sentence that goes with that presentation slide. You'll be able to tweet that out automatically by clicking on that link in SlideShare, so that we hope that you will be able to keep this conversation going with your other attendees and other business contacts as well. There are a couple things about GoToMeeting that I just want to give you a brief overview before we head into the meat of what we're doing. In your control panel, you should see our presentation in one window and a GoToMeeting control panel. There's a spot there that you can raise your hand and we will see who's put up their hand, and that'll allow us to open your mic and get you to ask a question. But you're also welcome to use the questions and chat features of GoToWebinar, which are down in the control panel a little bit further. So if you chat, you can send a chat to the entire audience, and I invite you to do that now. Just say who you are and where you're from. But you could also send a chat just to either Trev, Jeff, or myself using that chat feature. So I hope you'll take advantage of those. So before we get into Trevor's presentation, I wonder if you could just find the chat window there and type in your message. Thanks very much, Adam from Fresh Ideas and Jim. So we've got some people putting stuff in the Jim from Halifax. Welcome, Jim. Got people putting it in things in the question section. So we encourage you to keep using that. There should also be a chat window that will allow you to chat to everybody. If you use the question window, those will be the things that we try to answer if you're a bit shy about coming on mic or not sure you have your computer set up or your phone set up properly to come on mic as part of the presentation. We also want to let you know, just as a courtesy, that we are going to be recording this. So so this will be available to those who registered and were not able to join us at this time. It'll be available there. So hello also to Paris too and Lisa from Toronto. Appreciate those people filling us in who they are and where they're from. At this point, I think it's best, Trevor, to turn things over to you to get us started on the discussion today.
Sounds good. Thanks again, everybody, for being here. I'm just going to share a couple of thoughts that we have in the form of a few slides, just to get the conversation started. Some of you may have questions already, which is fantastic. The goal here today is share what we know, share what you know, and to get into a good discussion about how we can help each other use social media more effectively for our businesses. We thought we would do this just as a little bit of a primer to elicit some questions and some responses as well. So we'll start with that, and then we'll open up to a full Q&A. One of the things that we like to reinforce is that social media, there's two parts to it. There's the social and the media, but it's social first. And when we say that, we mean that everything you can find in society, you can basically find on social media now. It's a reflection. It's not an accurate reflection. They're not identical, but those themes, those opportunities are all there as well. The media side is more around the technology, the apps, the tools, the techniques, all of those things. And we get lots of questions around those. And there's a lot of emphasis around those in terms of how do I use this more effectively? How do I do that? How does this work or that work? But I'll tell you, it's the relationship, that social side, that's the hard part. And it's also the real differentiator. As more people are focusing on how do I use these tools effectively and getting into all of that, they're actually taking, sometimes we're seeing this quite regularly, they're taking the emphasis away from being in a real discussion and building a real relationship with their clients, their community, their customers. So we really encourage people to think about the social part first. One example I give in terms of how hard the relationship side is so I've been very happily and very luckily married for a long time now, for 17 years. And, Carrie, my wife, is the person I cherish most in this world. But do you think I can communicate with her clearly on an ongoing basis successfully? No, I mess it up all the time. And I think if this is the person that I care about most, what about these people I don't know all that well? What are the odds of that going well every time? Well, you know what? It's not going to happen perfectly every time. But by being really honest and authentic through all of our communication about who we are and what we've got to offer, we put ourselves in a situation where we can start to have those relationships with them. And if there's the occasional oops or misstep, there's enough trust in place that it doesn't spell the end of the relationship. So in a lot of ways, the challenges that we face are not technological. It's not about the technology, though I know there are a lot of questions there. Most of them are behavioral. Because if you think about, you've got everybody you want listening to every post. So imagine they wake up every moment wondering, what on earth are you going to post today? And they're hanging on every word. The question that often goes unasked, and it's a critical question, is what do we want them to do? What is that specific behavior or action that we want them to take? And this is a very powerful place to be able to start in terms of understanding how do we actually engage with people online for our businesses. And that's almost irrespective of the specific platform that we use. So let's talk about how we apply these to our businesses, because all of our businesses, we're looking to grow them. We're looking to grow either in profit, in depth, in breadth, in number of customers, whatever that's going to be. But the truth is you can't scale without a system. And the challenge is, how do you systematize relationship building without it coming across and without it becoming a rote exercise, a mechanical exercise where we're not actually building deep relationships with people. And I think the metaphor of the train, particularly the steam engine, is a good one. It's amazing because trains are all system. When you think back to those original trains, there's so much metal, so much engineering put into it, and they're incredibly powerful. But what's really interesting is that they run on steam. Same thing comes out of our coffee cup in the morning, out of the kettle, this very, very commonplace asset that we have. They were able to build a very powerful system to channel that and say, how do we use it in a productive way? Now, the risk when you do this is that you become so focused on the system and on the train that you stop thinking about the steam. And I'll tell you, in social media, the steam is that relationship. It's that willingness to really connect with people on a genuine, ongoing basis in order to connect with them. And I think when that happens, you create something really extraordinary. When we think about how do you create a scalable system for social media, you've got to start with a plan. And when we look at our strategic process that's been built out of years of experience in the global strategy world and bringing it to bear to say, how do we connect business objectives to social media practices in order to come up with a coherent strategy, there are three key things that flow through all of them: clients, content, and commitment. And so I want to just talk about each of those just for a moment each. The first is clients. We always say, if you don't start with your clients, you won't end up with clients. You've got to build whatever you're going to do around the needs of your clients. And one of the challenges we see is how few people actually take the time to either upfront think about what is the specific need, the specific concern, the specific problem that they're wrestling with, in order to define and draw the connection between what they're doing and what their clients really need. If it doesn't happen there, it's not going to happen. People will recognize you're not actually talking to them, you're just talking. And there's a profound difference between the two. We've all been in parties, we've all been in rooms, we've all been in conversations where we saw the other person staring at the people walking behind them, focused on something else. We know it. And even the ones who are pretty good at it and can maintain eye contact, there are times when we all know that other person is not actually listening to what I have to say. Those behaviors are as true online as they are offline. So starting with the clients and really getting a clear understanding of what they need so that you can build your messages around those is incredibly important. And that takes us to the content piece. What do you say? And one of the golden rules is, for goodness sake, don't post for the sake of posting. Post because you've got something to give, something to offer, something to share that is directly relevant to that community. I think it's when people feel compelled to post that we end up with a picture of a sandwich or a cat. I think that's where they came from. That it's people sitting down going, oh crap, I've got to post something today. What will it be? And they look around and grab something and try and force a post out of it, or they go in a different direction. And the challenge with that is you really risk losing the connection with the customer. You really risk introducing a gap between what you're saying and whether or not it is actually relevant to your customer, your community, your client. And this is an incredibly dangerous thing, because at the end of the day, what you're really breaching is trust. They have started following you. They've started engaging with you because there's an expectation on what you're going to do and how you're going to do it. And if suddenly you stop doing that, or you start going in an entirely different direction, it raises questions that are going to make them wonder, should I still be here or not? And that's not a question you ever want a client to be asking themselves when it comes to your business. The third key piece that we focus on is this notion of commitment. We've all had short-term relationships. So I'm not talking about one-night stands or anything like that here. What I am talking about are, short friendships, short connections with people where there's been a little bit of interaction and then things go away. And often, no harm, no foul. That's all it is. But if we're looking to build long-term strategic relationships with our clients so that we're able to genuinely serve them, they need to see that commitment from us first. It lives with us. It doesn't live with them. Our hope is that they will engage and embrace that level of commitment and that they'll start to mirror it. But it does not start with them. It starts with us. And so if we're not prepared to commit on a daily basis, on whatever regular basis it is, to show that we want to talk to them, we want to listen to them, we want to understand them, we want to experience things together with them, then it's not going to happen. And this is a real challenge for a lot of people. We see this, and they say, "Great, I've been at this now, a few months, and nothing's there, so I'm done. I'm going to pack it up and be done with it." Well, the risk is you've just started relationships with people. You said, "Come, let's be part of a conversation. Let's get to know each other. Like my page. I'll try and share things as best I can, and not everything will be relevant to you, but I'm going to do my best all the time." And then if you say suddenly, "Yeah, you know what? I'm not so interested in this anymore. I'm done talking to you," it does not send a good message. And so that commitment to continue to do this over time is incredibly important. And that's, again, why the system is so important, because you've got to manage the level of effort in order to genuinely establish that relationship as well. We try and think about what are the fundamentals. So we thought it might be useful to have a little checklist for you that you can think about, you can refer to afterwards. We're going to send out the slides, so you'll be able to have that. But the first is you have to have a plan. There are so many reasons to have a plan. You can't gauge whether or not you're making any progress unless you have a plan. You can't sort out what exactly are you trying to accomplish until you actually put that down in a plan. And it's one of the most important things to do. And often it is one of the most overlooked things. People will think very quickly about, what do I want to do in terms of social media? Oh, I want to use LinkedIn. I want to use Google+. I want to use Bebo for everybody who's in a gang out there. All of those are out there, but that's actually the secondary question. The first question to ask is, what am I trying to accomplish in my business? And then to look at those accomplishments, those necessary goals that you have, to say which ones are aligned to the use of social media in the most effective way. You need to have a plan for that. You need to have a plan in order to manage your time and your capability and the resources that you have available as well. The second, piece in the checklist is to recognize that it always seems to take longer than we hope. I think there are far too many stories about things going viral that they sensitize us to this notion that, hey, maybe mine will too. And it doesn't always happen that way. I think it's a case where, if we use a baseball metaphor, people are going for the grand slam home runs over and over instead of the base hit, the base hit, the base hit. And I think when it comes to relationships, honestly, it's that ongoing regular communication with people that is really going to set us apart. And relationships take time. You can't rush them. You can't rush them. The only time relationships seem to form with great depth and great speed is during crisis, when people are forced to have to work together and forced to have a shared experience that's very profound. And the truth is, I'm not sure we want to engage with our clients in a crisis experience. Our hope is to do it in a more managed way. The third one really builds out a second, but it's that commit to the long term, but act now. It is so important to start early, even if it's small. Even if you only see small progress, it's progress. And that scales over time, but it takes that long-term commitment. So anyone who's looking at it saying, great, I want to get in now and I'm going to get out. If I don't get results in, X weeks, X months, whatever it's going to be, it's probably an unrealistic expectation in terms of what's involved around it. The fourth one is around being yourself. And some of you will have heard me share this story before, but we had a client who, he was, one way to describe him would be larger than life. Another way to describe him would be really obnoxious. And he had a very successful business. And he was who he was and had been successful being who he was. But when we were talking about using social media, he said, listen, I want you to make me friendly on social media. I want you to make me look like really friendly and approachable. And we said, no, we're not going to do that. And he said, no. He said, because then people will like me and then they'll come in and they'll come meet me. I said, actually, what will happen is they may like you and they may come in and meet you, and then they'll wonder which one is the real you. And once you introduce that gap between who you appear to be online and who you actually are, if those two are not directly aligned, if they don't look the same, people wonder which one's the lie, which one is not true, where have you been a little sketchy? And it raises a host of questions at a level that just that is deeply, deeply disruptive. Because what happens is trust is built in the subconscious through all the little things we do that people can't quite put their finger on. I'll tell you, trust is broken in the conscious. And so if there's a conscious decision to say I'm going to look like this here and act like that there, you're going to run into trouble. The next one is around listening first and finding ways to genuinely listen to what people have to say, to ask them questions, to respond to them, to be in conversation, but in a way that is genuinely listening, not in a manner to say, great, if I can steer the conversation over here, I might be able to sell them that, but just to truly listen and to start there. Those that do have powerful results because if you can listen and then act on what you're hearing, you have the capacity to provide far more relevant content. The second last one there around be visual, this is what we would call, and actually Paisley, it was you who gave me this word. This is an atonal communication platform. Very fancy language. Paisley, you're smarter than me. But it was so valuable to talk that through with you here in Ottawa. You're at Zach's diner with me, and we had a great conversation about the tone of voice is missing in a lot of posts. And so sarcasm can be quite tricky. Irony can be quite tricky. We can't tell when people are really excited necessarily or really upset. You can't always tell. So being visual as much as possible is incredibly important. And there are all kinds of benefits to that in terms of other platforms. We see the levels of engagement go up, and this is pretty well documented. The other thing I would encourage, and I would encourage you in the course of this as well, is to really support each other. We're all doing it together. And if we're organizations that are doing this authentically and with focus, and we can do it in a way that really shows that we care about the communities that we're serving, then actually supporting each other as we do that is an incredible gift to each other. And I know sometimes people feel they're in competition to one another. We take a real, what we call kind of an abundance mindset, which is there's so much out there. There's so many opportunities that one person succeeding is not taking away from anyone else. And so our reflex, and we encourage it with others, is always just to give and give first. Back to that social media is social first, and social is about relationships. Relationships are all built on giving. We give time, we give attention, we give affection, we give food, we give critique, insight, perspective, friendship, whatever it's going to be. And it's no different here. So looking for those ways that we can actually genuinely support each other, I think, is incredibly important. So our hope is that we can do this together. We have some thoughts. We've learned lots of things here. Working with the clients that we've had, the hundreds of clients that we're dealing with across the country and in the United States as well. We are so happy to be able to share what we're learning, but also this area is changing so fast and it's so big that no one knows it all. We don't. There are 860 social media platforms in our last count, and they're all in flux. They're all changing. So we've got to all continue to adapt and learn and work together. And our hope is out of this conversation, we can have quite an open conversation about ideas that we can use together to make our businesses stronger. So Travis, that's everything that I've got.
Thanks very much, Trev. Excuse me. A reminder to everybody, this is now your turn. This is your chance to ask questions about anything. I know just looking at the attendee list that we have folks who are just getting started and some people that do this professionally in the crowd. So I hope that you'll feel free to ask any kind of questions. You can raise your hand using the GoToWebinar control panel, or there is the question section where you can just put your question in there, and I'll read it out, and then one of us will answer your question. We did have a number of questions come in beforehand, and want to try to address those throughout the show as well. And so we're going to start with a couple of those, and then we'll move to your questions. So the first thing that, the first one that we got was about LinkedIn. So Jeff, I'm going to throw it to you in just a minute. But I have a quick thought about this as we get started. The question was, what 3 things should I do for LinkedIn success? And I'll tell you from my experience what the very base starting point is. And I think that you need to make sure that you have a complete profile. LinkedIn makes it very easy for you to know what how complete you are in your profile, what you need to do to fill things out there, and so it makes it really easy. I'm always amazed at how many people have sort of put their resume up there but not put their photo, and this being a networking social network focuses on business networking, I think it's essential to make sure that your profile is complete and that you have a professional looking photo out there. Jeff, what would you say would be your things?
Yeah, certainly there's a lot of things, but primarily what I see happen when people join LinkedIn is they set up their basic profile, as you say, sometimes not even including photo, but then they
Yeah.
just sit back and kind of wait for the magic to happen. And in any of these social networks, but particularly LinkedIn, the first thing you need to make sure you're doing is, and I put this in quotes, go first. Find the opportunities to be proactively reaching out and putting yourself in front of other people. One of the best ways to do that is to find groups. So if you're going to find success, certainly you need to optimize your profile to make sure it's compelling, communicates who you are authentically. Once you've got a compelling profile, then you need to put yourself out there, find relevant groups where you're likely to find people in your community who are potential clients, or even probably more strategically, potential centers of influence. It's not always about trying to chase individual clients. Sometimes it's just trying to grow your network so you're getting in front of connectors, those people who can continue to introduce you. So optimizing, joining groups. And the third thing is there's a growing powerful platform to actually add your company. Some people may have put a basic company page together, but there's a lot of features behind the scenes that really allow you to do something that you can't do in any other online space, which is create unique uh, examples of your company for different audiences. So depending on the demographic of who's looking at your profile, you can give them a different understanding of how you can help them uniquely. So it's that company page, it's that group, and it's that optimizing of your profile are really three key first steps to find success in LinkedIn, I think.
Great. Thank you very much, Jeff.
Mhm.
Uh, I want to read this question out from Zena O on our Facebook page. She asked, what are some efficient techniques in receiving feedback from your followers, or a best practice in engaging with them? And this seems to me to be probably a Facebook-focused one, so I'll let you answer. Trevor, I'll take one quick stab at this. Um, but the question is, efficient techniques for receiving feedback and also engaging your followers. And Trevor touched on a couple of these in his part of the presentation with having images. That we know that images are things that get the most traction on Facebook. And there are a few other different things you can do around asking questions, etc. But what would you think the answer would be to that, Trevor?
Sure, there are a few parts to that. The I think it starts with the tone you set right out of the gate. One of the things that we do, for example, is every person that likes the page, we send them a note. We send them a thank you note. I send them a thank you note. So it's a lot of people over time, but we liken it to if you walk into a shop, you're trying to desperately get people to come into your business, into your shop, and they finally do. What do you do then? Would you just be thrilled internally but not say a word to them, or would you say hello? Would you greet them? Would you find some way to acknowledge that they're there? And I think that acknowledgement is incredibly powerful. And this isn't we do it. Please do it as well. I think it just makes the world a better place. We have one guy when we sent that note, he said, "I'll bet you I've liked 1,000 pages, and no one has ever said thank you." And I thought, wow, that's very sad. I mean, we were thrilled that it had that kind of reaction, and we've gone on to build a great relationship with that guy. But it is so important to continue to use those basic set of manners that I think we were taught when we were young, and to acknowledge people who are there. I think actually Jeff touched on it as well. That notion of go first, and I think about all of those situations. If you think about a situation that you've been in where you haven't known anyone in the room, I don't know, it could have been as a kid at school, going to a new school, starting a new job, going to a networking event. I think the greatest person at those events is that first person who comes up to say hi and kind of lets you off the hook, and they show you around a little bit and they chat with you. So I think setting that tone right at the beginning uh, is incredibly important. Another part around the tone is actually the language that gets used. So this is a lot about language and pictures, but without sound. And so choosing our words very, very carefully is a priority. One area to think about is think of it this way. When we build relationships with people, we don't really build relationships with organizations. We build relationships with the people in those organizations and what they stand for. Very, very tough over time, unless you're an enormous brand, to create kind of a voice that resonates with people. Shifting from language of we to I, move away from the royal we to an I, or to sign your posts if it's a corporate account, is a powerful way to show that it's a real person there who is really listening to them and really cares. The other is, there are all kinds of techniques around asking questions, using polls, all of those kinds of things. They're not the easiest thing to do. To ask a good question that really resonates people is tricky. There are some data out there that show that the most powerful question to ask are questions that begin with the word when. Statistically, it's far more likely that people will answer that. And here's the reason why, and then the lesson out of it. The reason why is it's really easy to answer. We all know when we do things. We don't always know why, or we can't always explain easily why or how. Those actually are complicated questions to answer, especially when you're typing or on a mobile device or on the fly. But a when question is a very manageable question. What happens is once you ask a when question, like, I don't know, when do you read the most, or when do you, when's your favorite time of year? What's your favorite season? That's actually a when question, by the way. It's easy for people to answer, but then it's really easy for you to respond. And that's the other thing, is to respond to everything, because then people will know that when you ask that question, you're actually interested in their answer and that you want to know what that is as well.
Thank you very much, Trevor. So thank you also to Zena for posting that on our Facebook page. I have another question there's a couple questions here that have come in. One from Lisa. How do you convince prospective clients of the long-term value of social engagement? And I think that's a great question. Pardon me, Trevor?
I'd love to answer this question.
Okay, great. Well, I'm going to let you go with it then.
Was that too enthusiastic? I think, Lisa, you've hit on the heart of this. There are those who don't get it, for sure. There are some who shouldn't get it. There are some whose business it does not align to. But I believe those are both the exceptions. I think for most businesses, there's a tangible way to use social media. So I'm really glad that you've raised this. There are a couple of concepts that I think are really powerful around this. One is to get them to think about their competitors. And so the real risk is if they knew that their competitors were chatting with their prospects or with their clients on an ongoing basis, would that bother them? If they were meeting with their clients, if they passed their clients in the hall every day and had a chance to share something, ask something, sit down, have a coffee, would they be worried about that? And you know what? They would. Because if your competitor is talking to your customer and you're not, the customer only has one conversation to listen to, and it's not yours. And I think that's a huge risk. So if it's a competitive industry and there is a risk that their competitors are having that conversation with their customers and they're not there, that is a problem. We see this over and over where people recognize, oh my God, if it's insurance, for example, they're just going to do the renewal. They've had this customer for years, and all of a sudden they said they're gone. And there was no conversation saying, listen, another advisor has come to talk to me, and they've put this quote on the table. I'm loyal to you, so I want to have that conversation. No. That actually doesn't happen very often because that's a lot of work. They just disappear. And so I think that is a great issue of concern. The other metaphor that I use is how businesses have changed. I remember in the early 90s, you could basically start a business with a phone, a business card, and a Yellow Pages ad. By the kind of mid to late 90s, people were asking, do I need a website as well? There was a whole debate around that. And, those early adopters were out there and they were trying, and people were going, do I need to do that? Don't I need to do that? Well, today, there's no question. Today, to start a business, everyone knows you need a phone number, a business card, and a website. And for the most part, we're seeing, people are using Yellow Pages less and less. Now the question is, do I need social media for my business or not? And a lot of businesses are starting to say, yes, I think I need to do that. But I think in just a matter of a few years, people are going to realize the exact same thing as they did on the website, which is it's not about should I, it's about how. How do I? How do I use this in a pragmatic way? And I think trying to shift that conversation, Lisa, to more of the how do we use it? What's the outcome that we're after? I think it's very important. The other thing is, I would say, and the last part is to clear up some of the myths. I met this great guy, and he said, "I'm not using." I told him what I did. And he goes, "Oh, that's crazy. I'm not using Facebook. That's stupid. That's all young women talking about their hair." Well, if you think back to the first photo you saw, that doesn't really resonate with me very much as a guy who I don't have a lot of hair. The but what I said to him, I said, in fairness, I think you may be painting social media with a pretty broad brush here. So I think that the real issue is to say it'd be like saying, Toronto, I'm not doing business there. It is full of young women talking about their hair, and you know what? That's true too. It just so happens that there's a whole bunch of other things going on as well, where your customers are there, your businesses are there, your suppliers are there, your partners are there, and that it needs to be understood in that context as well. So those are my thoughts on it, Lisa. I hope that's helpful for you.
That's great. Thank you also, Lisa. We appreciate you submitting your question and put that in. So please, again, feel free to raise your hand or put up some questions. We'll go to some of the other questions that were sent in ahead of time. One of the things that came to us is, what is the real impact of doing podcasting? And for those of you that don't know, my quick definition of podcasting is any sort of media that's not that is either audio or audio-visual focused that you produce yourself. And that can go out to YouTube. That can be an audio-only show that people can download and listen to on their phones in their cars while they're running, doing exercise, or cleaning the house, any of those things. But really, my definition revolves around it being self-produced. And there is a lot of research these days about the sort of resurgence of podcasting. And I think that there's some great value in doing it. It's something that I do with a lot of our clients to help them get the word out about their special products, to help them build community around their company or organization, and to answer questions of the people who are their current clients and prospective clients. And so as we're recording this webinar, we could consider this to be a podcast in a way. We'll put it up as a video thing, but we could also strip the audio out of it and put it up just as an audio show, so it's available in different media. I think it's important to I think it's nice to do something once that takes a lot of effort and be able to use it again and again. And so if you have a video that you could put up on YouTube and then be posted to your website, and can also use just the audio for people who don't have a chance to sit down and watch a webinar for an hour or at 1 o'clock in the afternoon on a business day, those people could download it and listen to it at their convenience. And giving people as many different options as possible to hear your message is important. Is helpful to them, and that way you're going to set yourself apart, because if your competition is only writing long text articles about their product that is very similar to your product, and you're doing that plus doing short messages on Facebook or LinkedIn, plus you're doing audio and you're doing video, then you're getting to more people and getting to people in the way that they like. And I do think the most important part of that is that you can do things once and spread it to different media using, for example, Twitter. You could say, here's a link to our webinar, questions and answers on social media, and send them a link to the YouTube video, or allow them to download it from your company's podcast feed. I'm looking at some of these other questions that we had come in ahead of time, and Trevor, this is one that I think is the question that I hear most from my clients, and I wonder if you could take a quick kick at it. It really is, where do I find the time? I know that you said in your opening of the presentation that you need to make the time, but how do people make the time to get it all done?
Yeah, well, it's interesting. People talk about time management. Try as I might, I have yet been able to manage time. It seems I can either create more of it, get rid of it, make it move faster, or make it move slower. So I've given up with time management and focus more on myself. Because that's the only thing that we can control. Time is the most precious thing for me, for sure. For many business owners, we're pulled in so many different directions. We all see that in all of our different roles. That to create the time is incredibly important. The You create time when you establish systems. It's the only time when you can start to be smarter and more deliberate about what you're doing. We have this phrase that we use called methodless enthusiasm. So these are people who just say, "Great, I'm going to start," and they just start spitting out all kinds of stuff all the time. The challenge is it's not sustainable. The other challenge with that is people often don't know what to expect next, and that can create some confusion. So actually, to take the time to say, "Okay, how often am I going to post? When am I going to post? How can I start to? Are there particular themes that I want to use that anchor my posts and our messages?" So, we have ours. We work with our clients to establish theirs, because once you establish a theme that you want to continue to share things about. So it's a theme that builds a bridge between the interests and needs of your clients and the capabilities and priorities of your organization. Getting that bridge in place, that theme in place, lets you start to connect more deeply with people. So that's very important to identify what those are. But then once you've identified the theme, it actually becomes really easy to create posts around that. So think about it when you buy a new car and all of a sudden you start seeing that car everywhere. It's the exact same concept, because you're holding that idea in your mind around what is this theme that I'd like to focus on. How do I talk about, I don't know, maybe it's excellence. I don't know if that's the best theme, but set that aside for a minute. If my theme is excellence, all of a sudden you start to look around and see cases or examples of excellence, of people going the extra mile, of people really taking things a little bit further because they care so deeply. Well, those are valuable because it shares a common priority between you and your clients. But if you have not established what those are, you're going to be guessing all the time, and guessing is a lousy way to try to create something that can be sustained for the long term. The other thing is it really is to block out time to do it. And I know that's an obvious thing, is to say, great, I need this much time. But you can think of it in two streams. And this might be the most powerful effect that we've seen so far. So one is what we would call the published theme, and the other is more of an on-the-fly theme. So, and it may be the 80-20 rule, the ratios will vary for everyone. But you can think of messages that you would want to send to your clients, to your customers, your community, that you can anticipate well in advance. And you can write those posts well in advance. You can take a half day or an hour a day for a couple of weeks, but just block out a specific time to say, great, I know what those themes are going to be. If I'm going to post, I don't know, twice a week, I know I need 104 posts over the course of the year. If I've got two themes and one of them is around, I don't know, trust, and the other is around excellence, then it's very easy to either create or locate content that is relevant to those two themes. You can create them in advance. You could use tools like Hootsuite or others to help you organize that and manage it. And that can go out. Once you've got that established, it doesn't matter how busy your day gets, because you know that post has gone out, that you want it to go out. It's going to the people you want it to go. It's on the theme that you want it to be on, and it's linked back to your business goals as well. So you've built that bridge. The other is to be out posting on a regular basis. And we see this over and over when people are out, and it can be great, just close this deal, and there's a happy picture of them and their client, or congratulations to their employee of the month, or we're thrilled to receive this award, or we're thrilled to give this award, which is an even better one, I think. But to take those things that are just happening on the fly over the course of your day and layer it on top. When you've got the published piece already in place, you have the confidence to know that you don't have to come up with something on the fly. It gives you a kind of a freedom to really focus on things that are meaningful instead of feeling forced to create it. That forced pressure on your time is really unproductive, because it starts to displace other things that you need to be doing as well. So it is really about being very deliberate about what you're trying to accomplish, very deliberate about the themes that you're trying to focus on, and taking this two-pronged approach in terms of how you start to post.
Thanks very much, Trevor. At this point, I want to just make sure that we're traveling along the path that you want. And so I'm going to put a poll out there that I'd like everybody to just take 10 seconds to answer. And this will give us a bit of an indication for this and future webinars as to what sort of stuff that we want us to cover. The poll question, which I'm going to launch right now, you can see is on your screen. We only had space for 5 of the 860 different social media platforms that you could use. We only had space for 5, but I hope you'll take a second to fill in the poll and just let us know if there is any social network that you would like to know more about. And I can see the results are coming in. Just click on the name of whatever it is and click submit, and I'll close the poll in just a couple of seconds. That's great. You just pick those. Good. Thank you very much to everybody who's voting. It's a great response. Almost 65% of people have responded.
Travis, just while we're waiting for the rest of those to come in, I just wanted to give a little shout out to Adam McLaughlin. Adam, I see you've been live tweeting this, sharing it to the planet. So thank you for that as we go through it. For those of you who may not be following Adam, you should. He's great. And his Twitter account is at Fresh Idea Webs. And he's always got good stuff. So thank you for that, Adam, and really appreciate it.
That's great. Thank you very much, Adam. So I'll close this poll, and we'll share the results with you. So you can see that there are a lot of questions about Pinterest and Google+, which doesn't surprise me, but there are some more follow-up questions about Facebook. So please put those in there. I see Peristu has put in a question for us, which we'll get to in just a second. I will go back to we'll cover those. I'm just going to go back to Trevor's screen now. Trevor, that's great that you mentioned Adam's Twitter handle. If people want, they can in the comments put in their Twitter handle, and you can get some followers from this group of people who are obviously interested in communicating about business and sharing good ideas. So I invite you to do that. Put your Twitter handle into the chat and get some more followers from this group. Let me go to Peristu's question now. What's the best way to engage people on Twitter? How do you entice them to go beyond the tweet and click on the link? And I'll take the first stab at this, and then I'll see if the other guys have anything they want to add. I think the best way to engage people on Twitter is first of all to think of it not as a sales mechanism or a sales vehicle for you. That if you ever are to do selling using Twitter, that it is pretty rare. I think it's a good place for networking. It's a great place for finding out what's going on in the world. And I like to tell my clients to think of Twitter as the professional conference. And if you can find the people who are the all-stars in your industry, the thought leaders, and follow them, then you can have a conference from your laptop every day. Follow the articles that they're posting, etc. And if you want to get great engagement, then you could consider effective Twitter use as if you were a speaker at a conference, where you're presenting good information that helps people, that they can use instantly, that is a mix of links to other articles that you've seen and that you enjoy. Nice little things will help people immediately, like 3 quick tips to how to do something, that whatever your business specialty is, etc. And if there is value there, then people will click on your links and go back. You should be using Twitter to spread the message of whatever you're doing in podcast form, in blog form, on Facebook or video or YouTube, any of that. Use Twitter as the method to spread that. And I also like to make sure that when clients, even if they're not the type of person who's naturally involved in Twitter, I encourage them to make sure that everything that they write or post to their website or blog, they also post a link from Twitter into back to that link, that deeper linking, and that helps Google weight things and give them importance and helps you show up in Google search results. So I hope that answers your question, Paris, too. Jeff, do you have anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So there's certainly the perspective of using the platform as a way to broadcast messages. There's a different perspective as well, which is really building on that social element rather than just kind of walking into an empty room and shouting your message and then leaving. Often the best opportunity is to actually try to create a new conversation. So specifically engage an individual asking a question or asking them how their day is going. Recognize that this is a platform of relationship building, conversation, not just throwing something out there and hoping somebody has an interest in it. So purposefully engage strategically another person to build the business rather than just hoping viral things come from it.
That's great. Thanks, Trev. Thanks, Jeff. Trev, did you have anything you wanted to add? I can move
Yeah,
on to the next question if you don't.
just a couple of thoughts. The Twitter is quite interesting. There's so much traffic; it's incredible. So trying to hone in on who exactly do you want to talk to is and listen to is incredibly important. The hashtags are great for that to start to narrow down to say what conversation would I like to be part of. What conversation do I think I can learn from? And then to start to engage, as Jeff said, very directly individuals. And if they've got a great post, tell them. If they've sent you, if you followed a link and it was really useful, instead of closing the browser window afterwards, go back and say thanks. That was an awesome link. But I think what really sets it apart is, we talk about this internally. We talk about point of view. It's one thing to say to forward a link saying, "Great story, 3 tips." But if someone else has done it, to say, I think there's a 4th tip missing, or that second one, I don't think they went far enough. It should include this or this. To layer a little bit of you into it instead of just forwarding or retweeting, I think is incredibly powerful for a few reasons. One, it shows you're connected to a conversation and to a topic. It shows you care about it, but it also shows that you care enough to think about it and then put yourself out there a little bit. And I think as more and more people are out there and they're just sharing, the posts and the tweets and the messages that jump off the page more and more are the ones where people have really demonstrated a thoughtfulness. And I think it may be a case where we need to slow down in order to speed up, and that we look for a little bit more depth instead of just trying to spit out as much volume as we can. I think the issue around metrics is a confusing one. It's a subtle one, actually, more than it's confusing. And trying to understand what are the kind of metrics that we're after that are going to be meaningful is perhaps the toughest part. But I think lending that point of view, being much more deliberate, much more focused about who you want to talk to, and then genuinely chatting with them, asking, as Jeff said, asking them how they are, how are things going, those kinds of things. I think that's where the real magic starts to happen.
Great, thank you. I think we have time for about 2 more questions. We'll see how it goes. But one of the questions, and I think this follows Jeff on your on the stuff you're saying about Twitter, but people are asking, how do I get more followers? I think that means on Twitter and on Facebook. Did you have some thinking about that, Jeff?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's 2 perspectives here. One, I think we really get caught up in numbers, that I need to have 1,000 or 5,000 or 10,000 fans or followers or connections in order to have a vital, viable network. And I think that's a fallacy to start with. We often say we'd rather have 100 people actually engaged and interested in our business than 1,000 people who could care less. So have that perspective first of all. From there, then there's a lot of different ways you can go about building your networks. Again, it goes back to that term I shared, which is go first. LinkedIn being a prime example. Rather than waiting for everyone to reach out to you, take the initiative to start those connections. The other key message is you have to let people know you're actually participating online. It's one thing to set up a Twitter profile or a Facebook page. It's another thing to actually communicate to all of your clients that I'm here, and here's why I'm here, and here's why there's value to you to connect with me here. So that's sending out an email to everyone, or a letter, or a nice card, phone call, put it in your email signature. As many ways as you can, communicate that you're in that space. And then if you need to go even further than that, of course, there's advertising strategies. In Twitter, you can run ads to get followed. In Facebook, you can run ads to grow your fan base. Those would be the last step I would take. The first step is really determining what you're trying to accomplish, how many people you think you need to do that, and then leverage the traditional and the organic growth in those spaces.
That made me think of just with the ads, a little bit about ads at the end there, Jeff, made me think of something that the three of us learned in a presentation that we gave in Guelph, where one of the participants talked about a promoted post in Facebook and how I know, Jeff, you said in the past that you found with your clients it's better you found more pickup with promoted posts than a straight advertisement in the right-hand column. And this participant in our course said that she had found a colleague had posted something that she thought was great, and with his permission, she reposted it, and she put it out as a promoted post. And she paid, her budget was $40 total to promote that post, and she talked to her colleague that she had taken with permission, bore the post and reposted it. His exposure was to 36 people, and for the cost of $40, her exposure was to 33,000 people. So 33,000 people saw her post in the news stream. And if you're trying to build followers, you need to be putting out good stuff. And when you've got good stuff, you can consider promoting it using the tools that are built into Facebook and now Twitter as well to get that in front of more people and then have those people join and follow what you're doing. So thank you very much, Jeff. This question is a perennial question, and Liz, I think you have the honors of the last question. What is the value of Google Plus? Does anyone actually use it? And I'll take the first kick at this. There is value in Google Plus, and yes, people use it. The value is probably not what it seems like on the surface. Jeff and I had this discussion on the train one time about whether or not we like Google Plus, and I happen to like Google Plus because I found it's a very active community among people interested in technology and photographers, and those are my people. Those are the people that I have great conversations with. So if your community is involved in Google Plus, then yes, there are a lot of people that actually use it. The value of Google Plus is not so obvious on the surface. I don't think it's going to become like Facebook, where all of your friends and family and everyone you knew from interkip school growing up are going to be there. I think it's going to be a spot for professional conversations, and it is also even probably better, in my opinion, than Twitter at being the professional conference online that you can find. Why you should do Google Plus in some way is because Google has said that if you want to show up on Google, you need to post from social media links to your website. And they are fair or unfairly making it important that you post to Google Plus. So when you write something on your website or blog, or even have a special, you're trying to put that out, I think it's important to copy the link to Google Plus and put that out. But the one thing that is very important, and you can talk to your website developer about this, I'm sure Adam would echo this as well, because I know he builds WordPress sites, is that you need to set up the Google Author connection between your website and Google Plus and your Google Plus account. That way, when people search for a topic that you've written about, your name and photo will show up in the Google search results. And as we've said earlier in this webinar, people click through, interact with posts with photos in them more than way more than just plain text. So if you're looking through the Google search results page and you see a post with a person's profile photo on it, a result with a person's profile photo on it, you're way more inclined to click through to that. So that is the value of it. It takes a bit of setting up, um, but um, but that's the baseline value. The whatever else you can get out of it, I think, is like any social media platform. If the right people are there, then I think you invest in your time in it and you'll get lots out of it. If the right people are not there for you, then I don't think it's worth your time. So,
And I'll just add to that,
uh,
Travis.
I, yes, please, Jeff.
The only other element I would add is, and it goes back to what Trevor was saying at the beginning, it all starts with your business objectives. So if marketing is a primary objective, then sure, Google Plus might be the right strategy. But if you're looking at strategic referrals as the strategy you're looking at, that might eliminate some of these tools out there. We have a tendency to feel like we need to join everything because there's some value in it for someone along the way. I think typically our view is figure out your core business objectives and align yourself with the right platforms that get you in front of the right people, rather than this is popular, somebody's talking about it, I should join.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. Good. Well, we promised you an hour, and we want to keep it to that. Thank you very much to everybody who raised their hand and put a question in, to people who sent in questions ahead of time. Jeff, thank you very much for all of your questions and answers. Where can people follow you online?
Certainly through Twitter at nextlevel_coach. You can also find me on LinkedIn, linkedin.com/in/social-media-coach.
Great. Thank you very much. And I'm going to leave the last word to Trevor, so I'll just let you know that if you want to interact with me, you can find out about me on the Social Catalyst website at socialcatalyst.ca/Travis. On Twitter, I am at Zoic, that is ZOIC or ZOIC. And I'm happy to make any connections on LinkedIn as well. I know, Trevor, that you had a couple of parting words you wanted to leave with us.
Sure, just a couple of thoughts. Thanks a lot, Travis. And thanks everybody for your time. It's so important for us to keep giving through this process. It's who we are. It's the essence of social media. It's a great alignment for what we value and what we get to do, and that's a rare privilege for us to be able to do that. One of the things that we wanted to do, one of the things we wanted to give is we have a strategy process. It's a one-page social media strategy. It's a big page. But the goal for that strategy is to get that clear understanding of clients, of your business objectives, of your process for your social media publishing, as we would call it, to get that plan in place so that you can start to act quickly and with confidence and with a deliberate plan that you can evaluate over time in order to use social media more effectively. The reason it's one page is, I used to be a strategy in the global strategy consultant in the global strategy practice at Bryce Waterhouse Coopers, and I realized early on that the test of strategy is in execution. And if it is overly confusing, if it is too nuanced and too subtle and too long, people won't read it and they won't do it. And so our goal here was to boil down right to the fundamentals. What is the essence here of what needs to be understood and what needs to be done? And that's what the one-page social media strategy has been developed for. We normally sell that for $750. We are offering that to you only, not to the whole world. But for those of you who participate in the call for 20% off, $150 off, so $600 to do it. The end of the day, we start with every one of our clients on this. We start with a strategy to get that clarity, and then they'll go one of two directions: either do it yourself, where we'll be, often providing them with coaching services, or really giving it to someone else. Sometimes that's us. Sometimes it's another supplier. Sometimes it's someone in their organization to really run with, but to really execute it. But it's so powerful in that it gives clarity, it gives focus, it gives you your time back because you're able to be more effective, and ultimately it takes you in the direction to get the results that you're after. If that's something that you're interested in, send me a quick note afterwards. My email is Trevor. It's got an F in it. It's TREF as in Frank, OR. Things we thank our mothers for. So Trevor at socialcatalyst.ca, or you can go to socialcatalyst.ca/Trevor, and all my contact information is there. If you're interested in that, that is there for you. I know some of you have used it already. We're thrilled to have been able to provide that to you and to continue working together. And let me just close by saying thank you. Let's continue to do this together. I've seen a couple of people have shared their Twitter address. Any way that you'd like us to follow you, we're happy to put it into the questions as well. We're happy to do so. Thanks again.
Thanks very much, Trevor. And I've been following people as I've seen the Twitter come across. I've added them to my list. So I want to thank all of you who've joined us, those of you who will listen to the recording afterwards. We're grateful that you would give us an hour of your time, and especially really want to thank those people who did say, I have a question and here it is, and put themselves forward in that way. That's really gracious of you to do that. So thank you very much to everybody. We hope you join us. Watch our Twitter and Facebook pages to see when we do another one of these webinars. We hope to do more of them and more frequently. So thank you very much. And if you have any more information or questions, check us out at socialcatalyst.ca.